Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to KunfO's first audio commentary. This is going to be a PvT on Delta Quadrant, a fairly big map, lots of room for expansions, and here I'll be showcasing a rather macro-oriented PvT style. It's going to be versus bluR, two around level 1100 players in the Diamond League. And of course the GLHF's going out right at the beginning. Now the key to this strategy is going to be I am going to try to get as many probes out as possible early on. So I'm going to be spending my chrono boost almost solely on my Nexus. And the goal to that is to try to get as ahead economically as I can, as fast as I can, and what I'm going to be focusing on early in the game is core units such as Stalkers and Zealots, as opposed to going for a fast Colossus. And standard wall off here by the Terran. And we can see my chrono boost going down already, early piling up on 9. And now I'm not going to send a scout out until I think after my simulator, because I want to make sure that I'm getting all the minerals I can at the beginning. And it's really not necessary to send a scout with this strategy right away because you're playing a fairly safe opening. You're going to have that Stalker out fast. You're going to have a couple Zealots out fast. So even if you were to go and scout an early push with Marauders and Marines, you should be able to stop it even if you hadn't scouted it. And that's one of the things I like about this strategy. With all the resources you're getting, you're really able to pump out units non-stop. Although you are sacrificing tech, but as you'll see, I'm able to get around that. And here's my probe off the assimilator, scouting around. Of course, scouting him last, as I'm clearly the most lucky player in the game. And his SCV doing a little nice jig for us there. And pretty standard opening from this Terran. He's going early double refinery. And he's going to be playing Tank Marine in this game. So not the incredibly standard Marine Marauder, but still fairly standard against Protoss. Especially on a big map like this, where you'd expect to have a lot of control of the map, and control of certain areas is going to be key in this game. As you can see, I got a fast Zealot out, and I'm working on a Stalker and Warp Gate tech right now. And if we go to the Income tab, we can see already my economic lead at the moment. I have 22 Harvesters already out at the 4-minute mark, compared to the Terran, who has 17. We're pretty much even right now. We're both going fairly economic heavy build, but as you can see, instead of transitioning straight to Robo Bay right now, I'm going to be expanding soon and sticking with the core Zealot Stalker army. Still chrono boosting that Nexus, making sure I'm not pylon blocked. You want to make sure you're not pylon blocked because later on in this game you're going to be getting units so fast it's going to be very easy to fall into that trap of getting blocked and not being able to make any units. So you want to constantly stay on top of that pylon production. And I don't know what he's doing with his barracks here. Okay, he's playing more defensive, tech-oriented 1-1-1 build, as you can see with the starport. He's going to be going tanks. Hasn't started siege research yet, but I'm pretty sure he had siege the first time I see him in this game. So he'll be getting that pretty soon. Okay, and with this build, another key to the success of this build is you want to open with 4-gate with a robotics facility. Now you might think this is a lot for one base to upkeep, but I'm not going to be using this robotics facility for much other than observers. I want to make sure I can get the 1 or 2 observers out early, so I can scout for possible drops on each side of my base, and also have a scout for his base, so I know what he's up to and what his army size is at every time. Okay. I'm at 30 Harvesters. I think I start producing more probes. Yeah. Another key to this strategy is to constantly produce probes, because you want to have 48 probes by the time you expand, ideally. Well, not 48, but you want to be able to main a decent amount of probes and still have a nice saturation at your main. So, you don't want to forget to keep making probes even if you have oversaturation like I do now, because when it comes time to lay down that expansion, which I will be doing right here at my natural, you want to have saturation at both bases. And as you can see, my army side, see, I'm already pylon blocked. As I was saying earlier, you want to make sure that doesn't happen. Always nice to keep the Zelnaga watchtower in this game like he was. Pretty central position on this map. And he's doing pretty standard turtle style for Terran, going with the command center. But I don't think he realizes my strategy. I think he's expecting a 4 warp gate push. This is another good thing about this strategy. Your opponent will think you're going to be doing a rush, a 4 warp gate rush. And I think that's what led to this little turtle going on here. And I should be laying down my nexus here soon. So as we'll see later on in the game, how my economic style build is going to counter his turtle build. Now you want to try to keep this from happening. If you see a raven, move away from it right away. I think I tried, but unfortunately his Viking popped out as soon as my observer was passing. So I'm laying my expansion down, keeping an observer right where I think a drop could come along the side of my base. I'm not too worried about this side because I have a pylon spotter, I have my army here. I think, well, I should be holding control of this Zelnaga tower. I don't know why I'm not. But just keeping my blind spot covered with an observer is always important because 4 Hellions coming in or 4 Marauders can really do some harm to your probe count, or even to some tech structures that you don't want to die. And I'm able to snipe off this Viking here. He's just coming to do some scouting. And he realizes I'm doing a macro build, so he wants to get this expansion up himself. Because if a Protoss has more bases than a Terran for too long, it means trouble. You can go ahead and start moving out with siege research. And as you can see, the core strength is numbers of this build. I already have 80 out of 92. Let's go ahead and go to the Army tab. 84 food versus 63 for the Terran. So as you can see, this build really has its strength in numbers. I'm able to position my army right between his expansion and his army. So he's out of position right here. This is a perfect time to do a push right when my expansion is up. Right when I scout his expansion going up with my observer, because I know he hasn't made use of it yet. And he is just out of position here. And oh man. You see the Zealots and the Stalkers right up in the siege tank face. That's why you really need Marauders to go with your siege tanks. Or at least more meat shields than he had there. And I think I'm just going to finish this up. As you can see, just reinforcing with more Zealots. And I should have done this earlier, but you always want to go 7, 8 at the most gateways with your expansion up. And he leaves the game. So what I think this Terran did wrong is he turtled too early, too hard, expecting me to go with a rush strategy with my 4 warp gates that he scouted. As I said before, that's the strength of this build. It hides the economic strength, and it can convince your opponent that you're going to do an early rush, which I obviously did not. But that push came much later in a much stronger form, thanks to my early economic advantage. So I hope you enjoyed this replay. It shows a nice little strategy to trick a Terran that might think you're doing something standard when you're doing something a little more original and a little more fun for all you macro-oriented Protoss players. Alright, I hope you enjoyed my first commentary, and I'm out.